Why didn't those guards right there in that setting go, surely this is the King of Kings. Look what he just did. Because they had a job to do. As they carried Jesus back before Pilate, and he began to, and Sarsus, he sat up there before him, and they're getting ready to judge him, and they're getting ready to decide what they're going to do. So what they're going to do is we're going to crucify you, and we're going to carry you through the worst beating of your life. They carried Jesus, and I'm going to warn you right now that you're fixing to probably see some graphic stuff on the screen. So if you got little kids, you might not want them to see that, but I'm just going to go ahead and warn you of it. You understand that they took Jesus out into the courtyard. They basically unclothed him. And they took his arms and they wrapped him around a pillar so his back would be tight. And at that very moment, one of the biggest guards grabbed a hold of a thing called the cat of nine tails. And he took that cat of nine tails and he went to run up against it, and he just whack. And when it did, it wrapped around him. And he jerked it away, and he did, man, the bone and the glass and the little balls that are on there that are made of lead just ripped his skin. And a crucifixion beating was 39 lashes with that. And there's nobody that's supposed to live from that when they walk away. If they do, they're going to die shortly from the loss of blood. But Jesus took every lick. You know, I sat there and I thought, man, Jesus, you could have just said right then, forget this. They're not worth it. God, me and you can just hang out in heaven together and we can enjoy it and we can do what we want to do. God, they don't even appreciate us. God, they don't appreciate what you've done and the beauty that you brought them and the life that they have. The very breath that they're breathing right now, God, they don't understand. God, just let me call on the angels, God, and we can come back and I can hang out with you and everything will be fine. But He didn't. He took every lash. At the end of that beating, He was laying there lifeless. And they walked up to Him and they took this huge pillar. They called it the cross. And they actually tied it to His body because they didn't want Him to drop it. And there He began to walk and stumble. And He'd fall down, and that weight on His back, and He'd just pop His mouth and His stomach and His shoulders. And He drug that cross to a place called Golgotha. The place where they were going to crucify Him. The place where it was all going to be said and done. They'd no longer have to deal with this guy. All of his miracles, all of his magic, all the stories, they wouldn't have to deal with it no more. It would be gone. As Jesus tracked and He walked and He did all He could. Matter of fact, He got to the point where He couldn't even go on any further. I think He could have. But even on the walk to Golgotha, He was still ministering. Because a man named Simon had to pick Him up and help Him and carry His cross. When they got there, they laid Him down on the ground and they took that cross and they got these huge spikes that were specially designed for crucifixion that would hold tight. They wouldn't let the body fall off there. They took Jesus' arm and they put it down and they tied it real tight and they began to nail those nails into His hands and His wrist. A lot of pictures you may see of it going through His palm, but it was actually through this where the bones would lock. And there was no way He could tear away from it. There was no way that He could rip His arm right so He could breathe. You see, the crucifixion is set up to when they set that up and they drop that thing in there and it hits and you fall down to where you can't breathe. You're basically either you're not dead yet, you're going to drown in your own blood and your own mucus. It was designed to be the worst death possible. As they got done beating the nails into His hands, they reached down and they put both feet on top of each other. They began to nail through both sets, through both feet. And Jesus, if He needed to take a breath, He'd have to push up on those nails to get just a little bit of air in His lung. Again, I ask you, all he had to do was say, angels, come take care of this. But he didn't. I think the God and the Son that we're talking about here today had a very important plan for Andy Morris. Desired to want to know me, to want to shape me, to want to lead me, but more than anything, to love me. Because there's no way you could go through that if you didn't love me. There's no way that you could even look at me if you knew what I'd done, if you knew my past, if you knew the things that I've done. I mean, I don't even know that he would have come and got me out of jail if it would have. And to die for me? To die for you? I mean, you know it had to hurt. You know there was so much pain. I mean, you know, and they kept talking about the king, this king that you talk about, the king of the Jews. Well, they gave him a crown, the crown that they thought would be honored. It was the crown of thorns. And they just jabbed it into his head. There's your king. See, everything began to get really quiet, really still, and really dark. As Jesus was sitting there and he was breathing and he was taking his last breath, he says, God, Daddy, man, they don't know what they're doing. But soon, they will. And he said, this is it. It's finished. And at that moment, Jesus took his last breath and died. Now, you're sitting there looking at it, and you've followed him everywhere, and you've done this, and you've done all these things, and you sat and ate supper with him the other night, and he told you, hey, I'm going to leave here for a while, but I'm going to come back, and everything's going to be cool, don't worry about it, and it's going to be fine, and you're going to panic a little bit, and you didn't say nothing about dying, Jesus. I mean, you realize that, I had a fishing career over here that I was doing all this, and now everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. Because, I've followed you all over this place. I've done everything that you wanted me to do, and here I am. You're dead. What do we do about it? Everybody's going to talk about me, man. They're going to look at me. They're going to say I've been following some weird guy. But yet there's Jesus' mom, Mary, that virgin birth, that mother that said, God, I will do what you want me to do. I'll be your servant. And she's looking at her son on that cross, and he's dead. But see, I think in Mary's heart, she knew something. Mama got that. I don't know if y'all know that or not. She knew something. Something special was going to happen. As they took him off that cross and they wrapped him up in this linen, and they were going to make sure, just because this guy's been pretty good with tricks before and these things that they're calling miracles, so we got to be really sure. So we're going to take our biggest guys and we're going to take our biggest stone. We're going to put him in one of these holes, and we're going to take that stone and we're going to shove it up against there, and we're going to seal it tight, and he's going to be done. It's going to be done, and nobody's going to be able to move that stone ever again. And we don't even have to worry about this word named Jesus, this man that they talk about that's supposed to be the Messiah. It's going to be gone. It's done. But you see, there was a plan. There was a plan that involved blood. The very blood that was shed on that cross. And it was designed for one thing: power, mercy, grace, forgiveness, majesty, glory, grace. And as it dropped and fell, it covered me. Covered you. The moment that I was 9 years old and I said, God, Jesus, there's something missing. And I want to be your child. That drop of blood covered me. As Jesus was in the grave, the folks come walking up, and man, there it is. It's still closed. Man, what are we going to do? Man, what are we going to do? But you know who was persistent? The women, as usual. Andy, have you done this yet? Andy, have you done this yet? That one morning, you guys got to be there with me, guys. You got to go there with me. You got to think about this. And she's walking down through there. What was she expecting to see? What was she expecting? Well, let me ask this. What are you expecting from God tonight? Are you expecting a normal service? Are you expecting one more night in church or one more time to hear this story? Or what are you expecting tonight? I think she was expecting to see that stone there, but she was hoping for a miracle. And that's exactly what she got. Because at that moment, the stone was rolled away. And here is something about the angels and Marys. An angel of the Lord come out and said, hey, the person that you're looking for, he ain't here. He's risen. He's risen like he said he would. You need to go and share it with people. At that very moment, she went running, and you guys know that everybody was sitting there going, oh, this is amazing. Wow, this is unbelievable. This is really cool. What an unbelievable trick. And I say trick because even his own followers said, you look like him. You sound like him. But I got to touch you. Let me see your nail-scarred hands. Let me see your side where they pierced you with a spear. And Jesus so willingly showed. And the Bible says at that moment they sat there and they praised and worshiped Him. Tonight you may have come in going, I just have never experienced Him. Have you asked Him? Have you asked Him, God, please let me experience your glory. God, please let me experience you for the very first time. As death thought it won, when Jesus said it's finished, basically what Jesus did at that very moment, finished wrapping the greatest gift of all, eternal life. Tonight we're going to experience communion. If you're a believer, if you have a relationship with Christ, I ask you to prepare your heart to come before Him and experience communion with that same Lord that was on that cross. That same Lord that was in that courtyard taking those lashes for you and me. Tonight, think about what He did for you.